Joining us from Harvard, head coach Kerry Moore, student athletes Mackenzie Forbes and Maggie McCarthy. We'll begin with the opening statement from coach, followed by questions for the student athletes first. Reminder, media members, please state your name and affiliation before your first question. Coach.
Wow, what a game. I think I was sitting here yesterday and you guys were asking me about the league and two bids and all of that. And, I think you saw tonight just how good this league really is. Just two teams, really good teams, battling and fighting back and forth, solid on both ends, going into OT. And just a credit to Columbia. I have a ton of respect for what they do and for Meg. They obviously have a great season and they deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. But just really proud of our group. We've worked for this. We've been through a lot this season, and a lot of stuff goes into winning games like these, and just everything that we've been through, from the coaching change to injuries, to just changing lineups. I'm just incredibly proud of how they persevered, and I thought we could have easily rolled over when they we had essentially had the game won there at the end. They fought back, tied it up, went into OT, and we talked about just throwing the first punch, and we came out and we did that, and we finished a game, and that's what we've been talking about, being inches away.
Questions for the student athletes in the front.
Thanks. Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Mackenzie, to the point that Kerry just made, at the end of regulation, you guys had the lead. Columbia that comes back, ties it. You have the ball. The handle gets lost in the post and the buzzer sounds. Kerry mentioned what she told you guys. What are the conversations like among the players at that point to regroup?
I think at that point it was just like, okay, it's 0-0. We need to throw the first punch, like we did when the game started. And I think we've been in these situations before. And I think someone said, I think it was Maggie, don't wait till the last minute to fight for our lives. The fighting for our lives has already started. And I think we really responded to that well. I think that was great leadership on her part. And I think we just stayed together throughout that whole overtime and came out with a win.
That's fine.
Jen Hadfield with the next. I'll start with Kenzie and Maggie, but Kerry, if you want to jump in on this too, more than welcome. On that last play of overtime, the inbound from Columbia, Kenzie's layup celebration, what do you remember thinking and feeling through that whole sequence?
I think we wanted to get a 5 count if possible. And then I think, obviously, I'm just trying to go nuts on the ball. So, we practice stuff like that. We do situationals in practice. She's always on me trying to get deflections in practice. So I was just trying to do everything I could to not let them get a shot off. And then, obviously, I had the ball, so just wanted to run the clock out.
Yeah, and I think, as the buzzer sounded, too, I think we were just extremely proud of ourselves, extremely proud of, all of our preparation. We trusted it the whole time, all the way through overtime till the last second. I think that's where, why we got so excited. We were just proud of, how far we've come, and we finally showed it, on a big stage, the Ivy tournament.
If I can just follow up real quick. Kenzie, you got the ball there right for that last-minute layup. Is the clock, is time slowing down for you? Is it, what are you feeling as you have that ball and are just running?
Yeah, it was really slow. I remember,
watching. I
got it. I'm like, okay, should I hold it? I'm like, I got to get out of here. And then I looked at the bench. I'm looking at Coach Stowe. I'm like, should I go? Should I not? It felt like I had 30 seconds. I was probably moving a lot slower than I thought I was in my head. But, I just, kind of had an awareness that, I could probably get one up and that we weren't up by too much. So I thought it made sense to go get a score.
Right behind you.
Steve Silverman, Ivy Hoops Online. This question is really for all three of you. In the first half especially, I thought you were really dominating the game physically. I think the rebounding statistics were really tilted in your favor. I think it was 25-15. But then at some point, maybe in the fourth quarter, that started to change a little bit, and it seemed to me like Columbia was maybe playing with a little more desperation. But they were coming down with offensive rebounds. They were getting second chances. They were converting some of those second chances, and the question is, what was going on at that point? Was it a little bit of fatigue? Was it their desperation just creating a little more energy on their side? What happened in terms of just sort of the physicality that let them maybe get a few more rebounds and get back in the game?
I mean, I think what we talked about in our huddles is like, I think that's just like a bit of a mental lapse, I think sometimes. And we knew that that was happening when we tried to like regroup and make sure that didn't happen. I think every time we came into the huddle, that was, we were talking about 50-50 balls have to be ours, because we kind of felt that tide shifting, but I felt like we bend, but we didn't break. So I was really proud of us in that regard, because I think we finished strong in that sense.
I think Columbia too has proven to be like a good rebounding team, so we knew that that could happen at some point, no matter how hard we're trying, out of the period of like a 40-minute game. But I think the important part was just like how we reacted in the huddles. Like we recognized it happening and we were gonna make a change. I think that's what happened at the end. Like we came out on top.
Rob Brown, Ivy Hoops Online. This is for Maggie. Do you have good health insurance? Because you've taken a pounding this year.
elbows.
And, right?
I got my knee pads. I think I need elbow pads at this point.
You see your legs.
Yeah, I know they're hidden.
Oh, yesterday when in the press conference we were talking about last year's loss to Princeton and how you've basically been waiting a year to get to this point. How does it feel now that you've overcome that challenge and made it onto the finals?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that we could get to where we are right now. Like we proved it last year, but like we weren't satisfied with that outcome last year. So I think after that loss last year, luckily we got a new coach to set us back on track. But we also had that fight in us. So we knew we could get to where we are, and we knew that we had to just take it one step further. Yeah.
Right in front.
Thanks. Isabel Rodriguez with the Daily Princetonian. Coach, you talked yesterday about how, and you guys can chime in as well, but about how big that win at the beginning of the season against Princeton was, and taking away some lessons from those bigger wins that you guys had. I'm just curious, like, how much of that was you felt helped out in terms of overcoming here, and then also like the close games that you had against the 3 other tournament teams leading up to this, how important those were coming into today.
For sure. I mean, it's just all those games are just a part of the journey that we've had, getting to this point. And win or lose, I tell them all the time, we either win or we learn from what just happened. And we've learned. We've lost some games that we're not happy about in the league this year, but we've made sure that we learn the lessons from those. Particularly, we were just here 2 weeks ago and played really well for 3/4 of the game and let it slip away in the last 2.5. And I think, that was something that, we can pull from. And, I think we felt good in this gym, and I think that helped us come out, the way that we did today. And since that game, we've worked heavy on, situationals and in-game situations. So we've put them in these type of situations and created that type of, chaos for them in practice. So hopefully, in a game like that, we can get over the hump the way that we did. And I'm proud.
Do we have one more for the student athletes? Right here.
To either of you, but Maggie, I'll start with you. How do you spend the next, 16 hours or so until 5 o'clock tomorrow to make sure that you have enough in the tank?
Starting by drinking a lot of protein, lots of water, and just rest and mentally prep. It's a quick turnaround. So I think just taking care of our bodies, taking care of our minds, and just prepping to beat Princeton tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ivy League prepares us for the back-to-backs, and Coach has been stressing that all year. Like, in order to win a championship, we have to win a back-to-back. So I think, mentally, we've been preparing for that. So, like Maggie said, just getting a lot of rest.
Maggie McKenzie, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Miss you guys.
Questions for Coach? Right here.
Carrie, you and I have talked about how you sometimes challenge your seniors to play like seniors, right? Can you talk about these two who just left? Kenzie, obviously the 27 points, but Maggie plus 16 plus minus.
It's unreal. I mean, Maggie, she plays 2 sports at Harvard, and she came out and did what she did today. And it's because she's a fighter. She's one of the toughest kids I've ever coached, and she wants this. And Kenzie, all of the adversity that she's been through this Ivy season, we talked about it. I mean, she's an honorable mention All Ivy player, and she single-handedly willed us to that win. And I'm just incredibly proud. That's why those two are our seniors. That's why they're our captains. And they lead by example, and they lead with their voice, and they lead with their toughness. And they're just amazing captains for this young team to really follow.
On the edge here, right here.
You got those lacrosse coaches mad at you now.
we get to keep her for another couple weeks.
Carrie, obviously you've been around the block coaching plenty in your career, including the Ivy League, but to that point and listening to what they said earlier when I asked them about that huddle going into overtime, for you in your first year as a head coach, to know that you can entrust your players to take it up among themselves, how important is that for you?
It's huge. It's huge. We've talked about it all year long about the best teams are player-led teams, not coach-led teams. But it's been a process, right? Like this change, with a new head coach, we had to build relationships. They had to get to know me. I had to get to know them. And throughout all of that, I think you've seen these two in particular really step up and grow in that area. I'm constantly challenging them to use their voices and communicate. And they did that tonight. They were there for one another. I didn't need to say too much. They already knew what needed to be said. And I knew the moment that we could get to that point in the season, we would be a pretty good team. So it was great that it happened today.
Coach, you guys were really able to shut down Abby Sue tonight. She got a basket at the end that was when the game was pretty much over in overtime, but other than that, only 2 points in regulation. What did you guys do to contain her tonight?
Yeah, it was a huge part of the game plan. She's in our first 2 games with them. I think she was averaging close to 30 points, against us. And so we needed to change the matchup. We talked about maintaining the matchup. I thought Harmony did an amazing job on her. We chased her, we crowded her, really pressured her. I don't think she enjoys or likes that type of pressure and tried to run her off the line a lot. We tried to hedge her on ball screens, to really force her to be a passer and not give her clear pass on switches or drop coverages. And I think, we really worked on it the last week. Our game plan was to make others on their team beat us. And I thought we really executed the game plan in a great way.
I guess I'll follow up with that with Lola. Like when they're shutting her down, what do you do to kind of adapt to that situation?
Yeah, I think what makes Lola great, and she's used to it. She was averaging almost 20 points per game in Ivy. And at that point, teams are chasing her and crowding her and being physical with her. But what she does a really good job of is just moving off the ball. She curls and then we replace behind her. She sets great shuffle screens, and they're hugging her. So then the person coming off the screen is open. So she knows her job is not done, simply just because she's not, making threes. And I thought she did a, tremendous job of that, of not forcing and running the actions. And it was really fun to watch. And I think the good thing about our team is we have a lot of other options to go to.
We have time for one more.
Do you want to?
Coach, I'm just curious about Harmony specifically, coming off a huge year for her last year and then coming into this year facing more double teams and getting more attention from defenses, just how you've seen her grow over the last year in terms of being a leader and all that.
Yeah. I was just talking to her before I came up here. She's an incredible talent, and I think she's really growing into being a great teammate. And that for me has been the growth that I'm most proud of. I think if you talk to her, I think she would tell you that her relationships with her teammates are much better than they were last year. Her relationships with her coaching staff, much better than they were last year. Her comfortability, and just her, she is working at making the right play, all the time. I tell her she has a gift. She has a gift. She can come off a ball screen and has 3 people guarding her. It's hard. It's like, do you shoot it? Do you pass it? So it's really, it's great to watch her, kind of go through that growth and see her be able to make plays the way that she did today when a couple games, leading up to this point, she hasn't looked, as clean as she did today.
Coach, thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.